Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alexis and today I'm going to be sharing my March TBR. For those of you that don't know, a while back I did do a video talking about the various heritage months, and I'm trying to hold myself more accountable in terms of my reading choices for the month. Not to say that I'm going to follow these religiously, but I do want to pick every now and then from this list and hopefully get through a majority of them. You will see the result of my February TBR in a later video and books that I did end up reading. But before I get to that, you will see that in a later video. I am going to mention my selection for March. March is considered Women's History Month. Here I have 10 books that I selected for my TBR. This is not realistic for me to complete unless I do all of it without selecting from other books that I intend to read around this time. I end up being more of a mood reader for the most part, and I did notice in my February TBR list, I did end up focusing primarily on the audiobooks, if at all. And my physical TBR kind of got pushed back because I was in the middle of a couple other books that I was hoping to complete. But yeah, that list kind of got away from me. And also, February has 3 days shorter or 2 days shorter than the other months of the year. So it was already working against me, but it is what it is. I'll share my results later on. With that being said, for March, I'm going to focus on books that have female main characters who are working in predominantly male fields or masculine fields, and potentially fighting for women's rights depending on the selection of books. Maybe it is already subtle in the story, or it could be very blatantly obvious. Some of these I did already have on my radar, whereas other ones I kind of went searching for or asking for recommendations. I do join some Facebook groups that I put out questions to get these recommendations, but other than that, this is the list I have to share today. First, I'm going to start with my 4 physical books that I have here. These are all mentioned in my physical TBR video. Feel free to check that out. The first book I have here is The Rakess by Scarlett Peckham. I admit I did start this, I'm not even sure how long ago anymore. I certainly mentioned it before, but I just never continued, and I got up to chapter 3. I did not start chapter 3, so that means I only read 2 chapters of this book. And this is supposed to follow Seraphina and Adam. Seraphina is a writer, and she does have her own paramour. She kind of goes against the norm or expectations for women at the time. She strives for equality for women, and she has her own affairs that she enjoys, whereas Adam is a single father of 2 young children. He is widowed, he's Scottish, and he's an architect. They do share one night together, and then from there, I guess their relationship blossoms. If I remember correctly, they are supposed to be neighbors as well. But yeah, I didn't get too far into this. I did originally hear about this from Crystal, from Crystal's Bookish Life. I am hoping to get to this sometime soon. I keep saying that every time I pick it up, and every time I started, and by every time I mean the 2 times that I tried to start or continue it, I just wasn't in the mood. I did notice that with my historicals, but it's ridiculous how many historicals I have and I keep collecting, but I haven't been picking them up in a few months. And then even the ones that I did end up reading in February, they were on my Hoopla as audiobooks. So my physical TBR is just slowly but surely getting shorter, but trying to be more proactive. So yes, The Rakess is one of my choices for this month. The next book I have here is Lisa Kleypas' Suddenly You. This is one of her few standalones. I will admit, I believe back in January was my last read by Lisa Kleypas, and I wasn't too crazy about them, so I kind of took a step back from her backlist. I read the first 2 books of the Hathaway series, and neither of them were to my liking for reasons. Feel free to check out my January video for full disclosure on that. Suddenly You is supposed to follow Amanda and Jack. So Amanda is about to turn 30 and she decides to hire a male escort to show her things in the bedroom because she's never experienced it before. Whereas Jack, the night of her 30th birthday, he shows up on her doorstep and she immediately assumes it's the man that she intended to hire for the night. But they do share something that night. I'm not sure how far it actually gets, if it's a home run or first base. I'm not sure. I did not read it yet. But after their first night together, Amanda does come to realize that Jack was actually trying to seek her out in order to have her work published. She is a writer in this scenario, and Jack is very much a businessman. He is a cast off son of a nobleman, and although Amanda is very much into respectability and high society, this is kind of her exception to the rule, whereas Jack just can't help himself and he wants her. So, like I said, I don't know too much more about this than that, and that it is a standalone. I'm not even sure if there are any cameos in this. But yeah, we'll see. I did intend to read this, I think, back in my fall TBR of 2022. Clearly, I did not get to it, but maybe this could be the month. And the next 2 books on my physical TBR are both by Kerrigan Byrne. These are the first books of the Devil You Know series. How to Love a Duke in 10 Days is the first book. Just from the title alone, it makes me think of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. If you remember that movie, I really enjoyed that rom-com. Perhaps it didn't age well. It's been a while. Who knows? But that's what this title reminds me of, and I am hoping to get back into Kerrigan Byrne's backlist because it is quite lengthy but quite enjoyable. I read a majority of the Victorian Rebel series as well as the Good Girls series. I'm almost caught up on both of those, so I'm hoping to get into this series next. This book is supposed to follow Alexandra and Pierce. Alexandra is a lady of upper class, however, they are going through bankruptcy and she does have her own secrets that she's trying to keep buried. She does end up having to pay a blackmailer off to keep her secrets. But she also intends to get married in order to save her family and, marry one of the most wealthy eligible bachelors. Whereas Pierce is a duke and he also intends to marry. She's the one to propose to him, and I guess he is intrigued by this, her wit, her independence. So it sounds like she's going to be different from what is expected of a woman at the time. I am looking forward to this. I haven't heard too much about it compared to some of her other series, but she has yet to disappoint me. All of her books, I believe, have been 4 or 5 stars for the most part. But I digress. I do intend to get to this one. Who knows if it'll be in March. All Scott and Bothered is the next book in the Devil You Know series. This is supposed to follow Cassius and Cecilia. So Cassius is the Lord Chief Justice of High Court, whereas Cecilia, she was an orphan, but eventually she had a secret benefactor from her mother's scandalous past, and then she was able to get a high education, grew up in high society, but then she eventually inherited the gambling establishment, the same establishment that Cassius is looking into, whereas he does not know that she is both women, the one he is interested in courting, as well as the same woman he is investigating. She, on the other hand, knows that he is investigating her, but she's trying to keep her 2 lives secret to him so he doesn't make the connection, but of course eventually that happened. This sounds like it will be related to identity in some way, but I'm looking forward to this one as well. Now for the audiobooks and ebooks I have access to on my Hoopla. The first one I'm looking forward to is Pulling Doubles by Christina C. Jones. This is book 2 in the Wright Brothers series. I did get to listen to Getting Schooled in February, so I will be sharing my thoughts in that later video. But with that being said, I do have intentions of continuing it. And this one is supposed to follow Devin and Joseph. Joseph is the brother of the hero from book 1, whereas Devin is the best friend of the female main character from book 1. This would be them in the hospital together. So Devin is a nurse in University Hospital, whereas Joseph is one of the doctors. This sounds like it will be a hate to love situation, or perhaps disliked love because of the environment that they're in and pulling doubles. So that's implying the long, strenuous hours that people in the medical field face. But this, I guess, it can't get more complicated than trying to make things work with your coworker, but also trying not to be attracted to them. So I'm looking forward to this one. The next book that I'm looking forward to listening to is The Bombshell Effect. So The Bombshell Effect is supposed to follow Allie and Luke. Allie essentially inherited ownership of a football team, whereas Luke is one of the athletes on said team. He's also a single dad, and he doesn't have any intentions of trying to get along with Allie at first. They do end up being neighbors as well and had poor first impressions. So this is somewhat a close proximity. This is a neighbor's romance. This is a sports romance, and I have been craving and enjoying sports romances in general. I did participate in athletics in school, and low-key I wish there was an adult curriculum near me or a clinic that would be enjoyable, but alas, the sports I'm interested in just don't have that available right now around my area. So all I can do is live life through my books. So, yeah, this one, Allie and Luke. I've never read a book by this author before, so I'm looking forward to this. I have heard great things about this series. It's almost always mentioned in sports romance videos or recommendations, I've noticed. So I'm looking forward to this one. It is about 8 hours long, but I do try to listen to 2 times speed, so we'll see. Another sports romance I'm looking forward to picking up is The Change Up by Nicole Falls. This is the first book in the New Beginning series, and this is meant to follow Jeffrey and Noah. So Jeffrey, she is a baseball player, and she kind of has to deal with a novelty that is being a Black woman and a woman baseball player or female baseball player, whereas Noah is a blogger who tends to criticize her and kind of show the negative side of publicity toward her. So she kind of has this intention of proving herself. I am not too aware, or I haven't heard too much about this. I did check reviews. It's pretty highly rated, but no one I know personally has read it. So this will be new to me, and I try not to look too much at reviews because I don't want it to impact how my experience is. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I do enjoy some baseball anime shows, but the game itself tends to bore me. 9 innings is kind of long. You may be familiar with the anime called The Wind Up. That's perhaps the most exposure I've ever had to baseball. I did go to a game as well when I was younger for my state's team, but it was for Girl Scouts, so can't really say much. I don't even remember if they won or who they were versing, so I am hoping to get to this one, and this is an author I've been hoping to try as well. I also wanted to mention that this book I have access to through Kindle. I'm not sure if it's on Kindle Unlimited still. At the time that I got it, I was able to get it part of a bundle or something, so it's just mine to own. But I'm not sure if it's on Kindle Unlimited, so feel free to check. But I wouldn't be surprised if it is so. Now, an ebook I'm interested in picking up is Cute Reactions. This is by Ruby Lang. I've never read a book by this author before, but this is supposed to follow Petra and Ian. So, Ian essentially has an on and off again girlfriend who owns a cat, but he is allergic to cats, so he decides to go see an allergist. The allergist is Petra, so this is a doctor patient romance, but with that being said, she is within the medical field and he ends up being one of her patients. This could be a conflict of interest because, again, professional and patient relationship, and this could jeopardize her new practice that she opened on her own. So it sounds like she is a doctor. But yeah, I am looking forward to this. It's less than 200 pages according to Hoopla, so we'll see. And this is also supposed to be more of a romantic comedy as well. I do see that mentioned, so looking forward to this one. Again, because it does involve me reading more so physically as opposed to listening to something, this may fall back on my TBR, but I have it on my radar and it is saved here, so I'll get to it eventually. Hopefully sooner rather than later. The next book that I'm looking forward to is Lush Money by Angelina M. Lopez. This is supposed to follow Roxanne and Mateo. Roxanne is a billionaire CEO, self-made woman, Mexican American, and she has intentions of getting a husband so she can have kids, but she does decide to do this for convenience, and she wants to do that with Mateo. Mateo initially does not want to agree to this. However, when he finally sees her in person, can't help but desire her. Things ensue from there. They pursue a relationship, and I'm curious to see how this works out. I've never read anything by this author. This is the first book in the Filthy Rich series. Looks like some of the other books in the series are listed as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this one, and we'll see. I haven't read a book with a female billionaire yet, or at least not a self-made female billionaire, but there's always a first. At least no book comes to mind with a female main character who is a billionaire, but always a first, and I'm looking forward to this. It's pretty highly rated, so that one about 11 hours or so. Again, I listened to 2 times speed, so it should take maybe a couple of days, but we'll see. The last book on my March TBR is The Viscount Made Me Do It by Diana Quincy. This is book 2 in a series, but from what I understand, it can be read as a standalone. Chances are I'm going to try to get to the first book first and go chronologically because that's just how I am. But this book is supposed to follow Hannah and Griff, or Viscount Griffin. So Hannah is a bone setter, and she is descended from Arab merchants. She made her own way in bone setting, and she does end up facing a new patient who threatens everything she worked for. Griff, on the other hand, got a tip about the murder regarding his parents, and that eventually led him to Hannah, so he becomes a patient of hers. He intends to get close to her, but at the same time, he intends to just uncover the truth, and he believes that she is a fraud in bone setting, but looks like she will eventually prove him wrong, and this will just be them mending each other. So that sounds like a cute story. I've never tried anything by this author, but hey, it's another historical romance, and love to see people of color in historical romances because we do not get those stories often enough. But yeah, I'm hoping to get to this one. It is an audiobook that's about 9 hours long. Again, I listen to 2 times speed. Hopefully I'm able to maintain that as well for all of these audiobooks, because sometimes depending on the narrators, if they're accent is something I'm not very used to, or if it's just how they enunciate their words, even if they're American like me. Sometimes people just be doing too much with their voice. So we'll see, but I am looking forward to this one. And those are all the selections I have right now for my March TBR. I will be coming out with a later video talking about my recommendations following this prompt. But let me know in the comments down below if you have any selections yourself. But with that being said, my name's Alexis. Take care and happy reading.